Hi everyone, I am Samantha Cunningham-Zavolinsky from Potratz, and I'm joined today by Cheryl, Milani, and Duncan Cochrane. I want to thank you all for joining today's sneak peek at the upcoming Auto Remarketing Conference, also known as Canada's Used Car Conference. So for today's sneak peek, I'm joined by two great speakers who you'll find presenting strategies and ideas that you can take back and implement following the conference to focus on Canadian remarketing and used vehicle industry. So now I'd like to talk about where you can find these two individuals. They'll be speaking at the AR Canada Auto Remarketing Conference at the Westin Hotel in Toronto. The conference will take place April 4th to the 6th, and both of them will be speaking Monday, April 4th. So I'd like to start by having them introduce themselves, tell us a little bit more about them and what we can find out at the conference. So without further ado, Duncan, will you let us know a little bit about yourself and what we can look forward to seeing at AR Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Samantha. My name is Duncan Cochrane, and I'm the president at Strathcom Media. We're really excited to be back at AR in Canada, what we think is the leading conference in automotive in Canada. We're specifically going to be speaking 2 times about these concepts of iteration and personalization, how you can personalize the content on your website to individual visitors, so you don't have to target necessarily segments or demographics, and how this content is personalized to them based on their past action, their past experiences, their past behaviors with your website. This is going to help you cut through the clutter and convert more leads.
And Cheryl is on the line with us as well. And Cheryl, what will you be presenting on at AR Canada?
Thank you, Samantha. I'm Cheryl. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Mobials, Inc. We want to make sure that our attendees walk away with at least 3 to 4 things that they can immediately do to differentiate themselves online. They're spending a lot of money on their digital presence. We know that digital is where people are looking for the next vehicle they're going to purchase, and we want to make sure that we're using video to help you build strong relationships and really show and differentiate yourself that way.
Great. One thing I love is that you're both covering the digital marketing element where personalization is a really important part of the conversation. And Duncan, I think you started by touching on how it's targeting customers with a personalized message. What are some of the things that individuals can expect to take away from your presentation that they'll be able to implement on the dealership following the conference?
Absolutely. And I think, we want to make a case backed up by data, backed up by science, backed up by market conditions, as well as give you an economic incentive to start personalizing your website. What we found is, last year we spent so much time studying millennials, those 18 to 34-year-olds, what they want, what it is they need, or how are you going to get them engaged with you, and we really found personalized messaging was the answer. So last year, while a lot of people were talking about who these people are, this year we really want to talk about how we can target them individually. And there's been a lot of great technology that's come out in the past 12 months that we've seen bigger companies use, some of the most badass leading edge companies like Netflix using it. How can we take those concepts, how can we take those technologies and use them at the dealership to generate a personalized message for the individual? I think it's really important to understand. I think one of the things we want people to take away from our session is this is a demographic that's about the individual. It's not about the group anymore. That's why in Netflix, for instance, your Netflix screen looks different than my Netflix screen, but the first thing that comes up on your Netflix screen is recommended for you. And then the second thing that comes up is popular in this group, right? It's all about the individual, and we want to take that approach with dealerships.
Great. And so am I prying too much? Let me know, because we don't want to give away everything. But what are some of the ways that you're actually implementing that for a dealership?
Yeah, and for sure, don't want to give away too much of the presentation before that, but based with certain technologies, when someone comes and visits your dealership website, we can start to understand what it is that they're interacting with on your website. What are the behaviors that they're exerting on your website? What content are they looking at? And then when they leave your website and come back, we can start to send them personalized messages, or when they come back to your website, we can customize, and this is all done dynamically, but we can dynamically customize creative, we can dynamically customize the content, the calls to action, the images, the offers, the incentives, right there on the homepage, on the SRP, all these different really busy pages, so that you have the best chance at converting these people with a personalized message.
Great. And I think that's one thing we're seeing the industry really shift to is that customized message based on what a consumer is interacting with and their expressed interest, or based on their digital body language, what they've engaged with on your website. What are you guys doing currently on your website that may be different than some of the other providers or vendors in the industry that a dealership can utilize for that?
Absolutely. I think some of the technology that we're using, without getting into the nuts and bolts of the technology, just understanding, if I come to a Toyota dealer's website, right, and we might, most dealership websites have kind of a generic message on the website that, most likely doesn't appeal to very many people at all. And then when they leave the website and they come back, we can have that message customized based on what they were looking at. So if they were looking at RAV4s or, say, 4Runners, for instance, we can have the homepage content display 4Runner imagery. We can have it display calls to action about the incentives, the current promotions on 4Runners, right, to really lead them down that path to conversion, specific to the makes and models, the inventory-specific pieces that they were looking at. So that's just one way, but you got to come to the presentation for the rest of the goods.
I think that's a great teaser because I know that I definitely will be stopping by. I want to hear more of what you have to say. But one thing, Cheryl, you're on the line with us as well, and I know you're talking about best practices in video strategy. So in your presentation, what are some things I'll be able to walk away with knowing more about video or better ways to utilize it for my dealership?
Well, one of the best examples is today, because my webcam's not working and Duncan's is. So we're looking at, engaging in emotions, your facial expressions. How do you take the individual experience at your dealership and personalize that for the customer? So one of the things that we're specializing in doing is helping you gain customer testimonial that will create advocacy for you on the places where your future clients may be searching. So, possibly Auto Trader, they're landing on an ad. How do I get my experience there? How do I show what it's going to be like to deal with me on the places that are important? So we're really working on that. We're also working on allowing our dealers a very quick and easy way to capture who their salespeople are. If Duncan and I were both on video and we're both moving around, we're a lot more interesting and it's a lot more engaging. And we're looking at things like internet leads and responding to internet leads. What's video going to do for you in those cases? So I'm excited to talk about all the different ways that they can walk away and actually do it quickly and easily. There's so much technology available now to make that happen.
And I think that's really important, is what you said, is that it's not hard. It's just about having the tools to be able to do it right, and then how to really work on connecting the dots to where people are. Is that what you're finding is valuable to dealers, and they're looking for the steps to go through it, or they're looking to know where those touch points are that it needs to be accessible for a potential customer?
I think it's both. One of the things I'm interested in showing them too is ways that not only gaining new customers, but how do we keep the ones we already have and create retention? What are ways that we can do that quickly and easily? So I'm hoping they'll walk away with both. How do you do it? Here's some quick, easy steps. Where should you do it? Here's some great places that you should look at putting that content. So it's all about connectivity, and what Duncan was mentioning is the me-tailing that we're talking about and helping customers connect. And everyone's moving digital, and I say to my dealers, what would happen if you had to turn the lock on your front door of your physical building? How are you going to show them who you are online?
And so if I was a dealer listening to this conversation today, what would be the one piece of advice you would give me for my video strategy? And I know that's a loaded question.
Keep it short and make it fun.
So personality, and I think that extends to a lot of the conversations we have with dealers, is how they need to make sure that their brand shines through everything that they do. And Duncan, I'm sure you see that on your end with the website platform, and that customization not just for the personal message you're having with a client, but also on the platform itself and engaging a client.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing in terms of, Cheryl, on the website, adding video to the site? Where are maybe the top 3 places I should make sure I have video content?
Customer testimonials is a big one. Obviously, where the vehicles are for your inventory, that's going to be very important. I mean, if you think about how we shop now, we want to see it all. We've got to really paint the picture and get them excited and create that emotion. And then, I think too, whether it's on the website or not, just having where your employees are showcased. What are their personalities like? Have them do quick little short bios and say, hey, I'm fun, I'm hip, you're gonna have a great time if you come and deal with me. Or everyone's different, so that's why it's so vitally important to paint their personalities so that the consumer looking can match with the person that they're feeling the most comfortable with. And our goal is always, we know they're surfing on the couch for 18 to 20 hours. What are you gonna do to be the one dealer they're gonna get off the couch for?
And Duncan, on the website end, what are you seeing as some really good tools that we can use? So integration, maybe it's the platform itself that has that availability to have a dealership add custom videos throughout the site. VDPs and SRPs, customer testimonials. If I'm tackling one first on a website, what should it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we could probably talk about that for a long time. I mean, there's a lot of great technology out there, and there's a lot of great platforms and a lot of great providers. I think first and foremost, as a dealership, you have to do your due diligence and understand if you know how to use the technology, if you have the time and energy to use the technology. The big thing we look at, if you're going to focus on one thing first, I think Cheryl makes some great points with video, is focus on your inventory first. We did a study. We're a completely Canadian-based provider. We only work with Canadian automotive space, no other verticals, no other markets. And so we analyzed a couple hundred Canadian dealership websites last year. We went through their analytics. What we found is 4 out of 5 page views on average on Canadian franchise dealer websites are related to inventory. So regardless of the technology, the tools, what you're going to do, I think it all starts with making sure your inventory is where it needs to be, and then you have to start layering up on top of these. So, I mean, we could get into the different technologies that we use, but I think it might get a little boring for what the purpose of this webinar is.
And so one thing that I think that we're seeing a transition to is utilizing video along with a transition towards more text-based marketing as part of the client conversation. So when we're looking at responding to a lead, what are some best practices, Cheryl, maybe you can advise us a little bit on this, of responding and utilizing video and internet lead responses?
I would say, the basics of responding to a lead is it does need to be done very quickly. And again, you've got one chance to paint your personality and build that connection and that emotion. So if you have a way that you can respond quickly, give them a video snippet of not who they're dealing with. What Duncan's saying is the inventory is vitally important, but you can make this fun too. I've seen some video walkarounds. It's easy. You're just taking it as you go around and adding a couple little fun things and tipping under the car. That I think is the key, especially with internet leads, because people are reaching out for information and they want to have that emotional connection.
If I can interject quickly, Samantha, I think to Cheryl's answer, I mean, there's so many technologies out there. YouTube, people aren't aware, have an app just called Capture, completely free. It links to your YouTube account. You can film these video walkarounds, these lead responses with video, which I think you mentioned is a great idea. But YouTube's Capture app is a free technology that makes that extremely easy. We were talking with Toyota's parts and service managers a couple weeks ago in Banff, and we had fixed ops guys using this app, building videos in minutes. So, I mean, if these guys could take to it in minutes, anybody can get this done. It's a great free tool to do these types of things.
So I know dealers are listening right now, and they want those tangible pieces to go back and implement a strategy after this call. And you just mentioned you were working with them specifically to do videos in person. Will you elaborate a little bit on what they were doing on site?
Yeah, in that meeting, what we were doing in Banff was basically these, parts and service guys wanted a better way to kind of explain some of their services, explain some of the procedures they have. They wanted an easy way to get video up onto their websites. And and I'm sure you guys hear this all the time too. The common concerns: it's too hard, it's not, it costs too much money, or I can't get the production quality as high as possible with video to what I think it should be. I think a lot of dealers, and I don't know what your opinion on this, they seem to believe they need to have kind of these Spielberg level productions, right? And it's just not the case. What we find is, if your video's not edited perfectly, it comes off a little bit more authentic, it's a lot more engaging, and there's a ton of data to back this up. And we were at Google yesterday, and of the top 500 YouTube channels based on subscribers, there's only 3 corporate brands in the top 500 YouTube channels. And the number 1 YouTube channel, which has over 11 billion views and 41 million subscribers, PewDiePie, right? This insane kind of Swedish 20-year-old something gaming sensation. If you look at his videos, the production quality is very minimal. They're edited almost poorly, but this is the best guy when it comes to putting these videos up on YouTube. I mean, to bring that all back to dealers is you don't have to have the highest level of production quality. The fixed ops guys started taking this back, explaining their products, explaining their services in a way that the average consumer understands. They started to have a lot of doing it because it's easy, and they're having a lot of fun doing it as well.
I would agree with Duncan on that as well, because we do a lot of video testimonials, and sometimes you have to get creative to get a customer to share something with you, but they're never the highest quality. You do them on the spot, and they really show authenticity and transparency, which helps with that whole differentiation online.
And I think that's 100% true. We tend to overthink things and make everything a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. And I think we can even attribute that to our own lives as well as professional lives. And I think getting out an iPhone or a Droid is a simple way to accomplish that video. Cheryl, is that the technology you recommend dealers use as well?
We actually have a technology platform that we're using through Mobials that allows them to do one video, and then we help them push it to where it needs to go, because that could be part of the issue too. So they need it on YouTube, they need it on Facebook, but the better part is they need the customer actually taking that video and sharing it on their social network. So that becomes advocacy and word of mouth gone viral. And that's, a tool that we have is just to help them get that all done at once. So they've got to shoot the video once, hit the button, and then everything else is looked after for them.
Simplicity, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. And I think that's one thing we're hearing a lot about is customer engagement-based marketing and a shift to having them be your brand advocates. Now, how do you see that factoring into the automotive landscape for 2016?
Is that for me or for Cheryl?
Oh, sorry.
Whoever wants to bite first.
I think it's going to be vitally important in 2016, because if you think about where marketing is going and they're talking about, there is nothing else besides digital, that's marketing. And we're here. It's now. So this is what we have to do.
Absolutely. I think engagement is key, right? We all know this is, how can we separate ourselves from the pack, or how can we engage people differently? How can we do things differently, right? You go to 95% of these websites, we all look this, all the content to be essentially very generic, and they try to appeal to everybody, and as a result, they appeal to nobody. And that's why I think some of the personalization stuff that we're going to talk about, really customizing a message based on somebody's past experience, past behavior. I think you said, Samantha, digital body language is a great way of saying it. We can engage them with a tailor-made message, because the message is for them specifically. It's for them as an individual, not as a group.
Excuse me. And I think one other thing that we should probably talk about, and I'm just curious what your opinions are on this matter, is the use of social media on a dealership end. What should they be looking at, and how should they be integrating that into their personalization message? And I think video is one way we've seen a lot of social media grow over the last year. I mean, if you look at Snapchat, the majority of engagement there is not only photo, but also video. Facebook Live, we're streaming live right now and have an audience of about 15 viewers. So Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram are all going video strategy-wise and utilizing social media. What do you see being a dealership's best social media tool for 2016?
That's a great question, and I would definitely agree with you. Video is awesome. I've been saying for years, people are lazy. We want to watch the internet. We don't want to read the internet, right? I love videos. Instagram is my personal favorite because I like pictures and put videos, of course. The one thing when it comes to social media that we recommend for dealers, especially if they haven't really started doing anything or they're looking to get in, start with one platform, get familiar with it, then move on to another one. Don't try and get, okay, I got to get Facebook, Twitter, Insta, Snapchat, Lab. I got to get on all these things at once, Periscope, and then you go insane, blow your brains out. You can't manage it, right? So pick one, start there, move onward. I think a lot of dealers still need to get a bit better at Facebook, get a bit better at Twitter. I think Instagram and Snapchat are kind of the next platforms, but I think you got to start with the basics and get good at it first.
I would agree with Duncan, and I think Facebook is still, there's a lot of talk about millennials not using it, but it's still a very mainstream and great tool to connect. We're looking at trying to find ways, the dealership Facebook's very important, but our real focus is trying to get them to help tap into the customer's network of social, and helping them put that content there and drip feeding the brand constantly so that it's always in front of. I don't know if you've ever stood in a bank or a line recently, but just watch everyone's head is. They're just scrolling, looking at their phone. It's interesting. We don't really talk to each other anymore, but we're very connected. So we want to get the brand there on their timelines.
And I really like that you're looking at a customer-centric approach to it, and that also can help with retention. If I was a dealership wanting to, increase my retention campaign and really work to have communication with those customers, what could I do? What, Cheryl, would you be able to do for me as a dealer?
I think for retention, if we look at, again, the experience and making it simple for the customer. So when, Duncan was talking about in fixed ops, I actually started as a technician in this business, and it was very difficult to communicate with the customer quickly. It would be so much easier for a customer to visualize when you're saying, hey, you need to get these brakes done, here's what the mechanic found. They're able to just take a video, send it to them. There's no question in their mind of what's being done, and that again builds trust and transparency and authenticity. So that would be one way, I think, of keeping your current customers very close to you and feeling confident they made the right decision. Little things like educating them by sending out emails that are relevant, things they want or need to know about. When you're talking about changing tires in the winter and new laws coming up, people are interested in that kind of thing, and it affects their lives. So that would be another service they could provide to help retain.
I think it's a great point that Cheryl makes with the technician sending a video or taking a picture. Then if you can layer in the medium they want to communicate with you on, if you're talking about retention, maybe fire them a text message, right? We know we all text way more than we do more or less anything. Might be an easier way to get a hold of them. I always like to, when the retention conversation comes up, I always like to try and also don't forget about the conquest market. I mean, the conquest market, there's a lot going on. I don't think, and we've run a lot of numbers with the different dealers, and we've got a bunch of information from Google Canada on this. I don't think dealers aren't as good at retention as they probably think they are, right? We've seen numbers as low as 17%. The conquest market is huge, right? There's so much opportunity there. So sometimes I think when you're going to talk about retention, you almost have to look at the flip side of the coin and look at conquest and see how much bigger the pond is to go play in over there.
Well, everybody's always trying to get your business.
Yeah.
That's never going to change, and I think that's 100% true in automotive, where it's so competitive, because in a lot of markets, you're 5 miles, 5 kilometers from a competitor, whether it be another brand or your same brand. So you're continually having to provide that value. And I think one thing that Cheryl said that we'll see a bit more of in 2016 is that transparency in the process and the communication with the customer. I think there's a preconception of what the automotive industry represents, and I think a lot of our dealers are working to fight that. And I think the personalization and the private communication, being video format and follow-up video that we do, will help aid that. What are your opinions on that?
Sorry, was that for me or Duncan? We'll just both jump in.
At the same time, go.
Go. I think one of the things I really would like to see more of is when Duncan's talking about conquest customers, how are we going to make it easy for them? And what you're talking about, they're coming to the dealership for the first time. Why not do a video of where to pull in? I mean, we take for granted they're going to know where to go. Here's who you're going to meet. Hey, did you want to see a couple of the service advisors? There's all kinds of ways to communicate, make them feel comfortable. But we go back to authenticity as far as getting your current consumers being advocates. There's nothing more powerful than the people that you've already impressed and love you. You can't go say, hey, I'm awesome. But your current customers can, and they can do it in a way that's very emotional and connects them, and that we use testimonials for that quite extensively.
I think two kind of concepts that seem to kind of become transparency, authenticity, right? I think it's the age where we can get information anywhere, and I think for dealers this is nothing new that we haven't been talking about, but providing that transparent, authentic information, whether it's in the form of a blog, whether it's in the form of video, whether it's communicating it via text message or personalized emails or personalized content on the website. I mean, I think transparency and authenticity are going to reign supreme. I think the other thing for dealers is you just got to pick one and start working at it, because it does take work. If this stuff was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? And the people that are doing it are having success.
And so one thing I want to make sure we don't lose sight of is that everybody can see you both speak at AIR Canada. Duncan, when can a audience member see you speak at the event?
Yeah, so we're at Monday, April 4th. I think it's the first session, or maybe the second session, but it's at 9 a.m. And then we're repeating it at 9:45. With 2 opportunities to come see it. This one's at 9 and then 9:45 on the Monday. We also will have a booth, and a bunch of us must grab on AR Canada if you're looking to get any more information or have any questions about any of this.
Okay, and if anybody is trying to pry a little bit more at your topic or find out some more information from you prior to the event, how can they reach out to you specifically?
Yeah, email is always a great thing for me. Just simply Duncan, DUNCAN, @ Strathcom.com.
Great. And then Cheryl, when are you speaking at the event?
I'm on the same day as Duncan, April 4th. I'm at 10:30 and we're repeating at 11:15. And we also have a booth with lots of our Mobials team members there. And if they're looking, for a quick, easy way to help get to the first level of a lot of this, we're definitely there to be of assistance.
And how could I reach you prior to or post-event if I had some questions or wanted to learn a little bit more about what you were talking about today?
Email is also great for me. It's just Milani, Milani @Mobials, and I'll spell that one too because it's a little complicated. MOB as in Bob, IALS.com.
Okay, and one last thing, I know we probably have some individuals watching today that are on the fence, that are deciding whether or not this is the right conference for them to go to. You've each attended in the past, and I'd like for you to provide a little bit of insight on why you feel this is a conference they should attend, other than the fact that you're both speaking, and what you've gained from attending it previously, and maybe help sway them in the direction of whether or not it's the right conference for them. Duncan, can you maybe let me know what your thoughts are first?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would say, we go to a lot of different conferences in Canada. We go to a lot of different conferences in the U.S. and conferences outside of the automotive specific industry, right? Think like SMX and stuff like that. I would say that this is one of the best conferences that comes through Canada. So if you are in the area, if you're in the GTA or if you are in Ontario, it's easy to get there. And this is a world-class conference to go to. You have a lot of great speakers from all sorts of different avenues in the automotive industry. Absolutely, without a doubt, you are going to learn new things. I think they have great vendors coming, they have great sponsors, they have great speakers. I think there's nothing really better that you can do in Canada. And I would just emphasize, the Canadian dollar is not as strong as it might be. So from a cost perspective, it's probably one of the most cost-effective conferences that you can get to as well this year.
And Cheryl, would you like to weigh in on that? Why should someone attend?
I've never left this conference without A, meeting really interesting, exciting people, learning new things, but B, the workshops are fantastic. I mean, not just because Duncan and I are speaking, but last year I just attended workshops. We had our CEO as the speaker, and I walked away with a lot of pertinent, relevant information. It was interesting to sit with the dealers. There's a lot of collaboration. I enjoy the conference because they leave good time to actually socialize and network with your peers. So there's a lot of idea exchanging, and I really feel like you're going to walk away with things that you can actually go back and do. So it's not, it's not just about the next new idea. It's okay, I'm going to go back to work, on Thursday, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and it's going to help my business. That excites me.
I think tangible items walking away from any conference is really important, and the networking opportunity provided at Air Canada is top-notch. So I'd like to say thank you to both of you for joining today's conversation, and for everybody who's listening who's interested in attending Air Canada. It is taking place at the Westin Harbour Castle in Toronto, April 4th and 5th, and it's followed by the first Women in Automotive Conference on April 6th. In order to find out more information and register, you can visit arcanada.autoremarketing.com. Again, to register, that's arcanada.autoremarketing.com. Hope to see you all there.